Hello, I'm Bill O'Donnell, and welcome to another program on spirituality. I'm indeed excited to have as my guests today Captains Robert and Jill Steiner of the local Salvation Army here in northern New Mexico. Welcome, Captains.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on, Bill.
It's not often to have a husband and wife captains here, but it's great. I'm sure everybody at home is familiar with at least the knowledge that there is such a thing as a Salvation Army, but I thought it was time to bring them in and to share some of the wealth and some of the commitment that these folks do. So welcome and thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to have a wonderful video here. If you're at home and you have time, call your friends right now. Tell them to turn on the television and watch this show, and bring pencil and paper so you'll know in the credits on how to contact them, because as you know, it's more blessed to give than receive, and we're going to give you an opportunity to give of yourself. We all need to have some positive outlet for our wealth and our happiness to share with others, and there are so many that are unfortunate, and these folks have dedicated their lives to helping the less fortunate, and we want to acknowledge them for their efforts and to give you an opportunity at home to contribute to them if you feel their work is worthwhile, and I'm sure you will. So it's great to have you guys here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's great to be here.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time with the introductions right now. I want to have you to sit back and watch this tape. It'll last about 13 or 14 minutes, narrated by Walter Cronkite in part, and it's a great history of the Salvation Army, a lot of which I didn't know, and I think you're going to find it really fascinating. And we'll be here waiting for you when you come back, and we'll try and answer any questions that might come up. So just sit back and enjoy this videotape on the history and what the mission of the Salvation Army is. We'll be back.
London calling, attention all stations.
It is 1902. The Marconi Wireless Telegraph Company of London, England prepares its first transatlantic message. It will be relayed around the world. Transmission time for each is limited.
Stand by for wireless telegraph message from General William Booth.
William Booth, founder of the Salvation Army, sends one word.
I'm Walter Cronkite, here to tell you the story of one of America's favorite charities, the Salvation Army. Have you wondered who these people are? This Salvation Army? I did, and this is what I found. I guess people at the Salvation Army are pretty much like all the rest of us. At least I'd like to think that. What is it about this organization that makes it, as they say, America's favorite charity? It prides itself on having a reputation for caring. From the Army's very beginning, its members and its workers have believed theirs is not a job, but a commitment. This Army's mission is summarized in a single word: others. The year is 1865. The American Civil War is quickly approaching its tortuous end. Lincoln has delivered his magnificent second inaugural, urging malice toward none and charity for all. In Britain, William Booth, a 36-year-old Methodist minister whose wife, Catherine, was pregnant with their fourth child, resigned his position as pastor of a comfortable church and aimed the thrust of his ministry at the wretched poverty of London's East End. Thus was born the Salvation Army, and on Christmas Eve, the only present in the Booth household was delivered by Catherine, a baby daughter, Evangeline, destined to extend her father's ministry and spread the joy of Christmas around the world. It's 1880, just 15 years after the Salvation Army's birth. New York newspapers recorded the arrival of a young man in full military uniform, accompanied by what were described as 7 Hallelujah lassies. His name was George Scott Railton, and he claimed to have orders from General William Booth of the Salvation Army to begin the Army's work in the United States. Near the docks in Battery Park, Railton and the Seven Lassies attracted considerable attention with their singing and their preaching. He claimed he was ordered to wage war against evil and despair. And then he marched all who would follow to Mrs. Doolittle's 5 Points mission. In just 3 years, the Army spanned the continent with the simplicity of its spiritual and social message of hope and change. In 1890, Catherine lay near death, but urged her husband to do something about the awful scourge of child prostitution. Booth attacked the problem head-on, in the courts and in Parliament, with demonstrations of civil disobedience that resulted in the arrest of his oldest son, Bramwell. His pleadings before the courts of justice and humanity had a powerful effect in reducing child prostitution. Not finished, his next target was what he saw as the ugly, selfish use of young children as common laborers, which permanently condemned them to a life of poverty. Eva spends it all, the New York headlines trumpet in April of 1906. The infant Christmas present to Catherine and William Booth is now the national commander of the Salvation Army in America. San Francisco has just experienced a deadly earthquake and fire which ravaged the entire city with death and destruction everywhere. The commander, as she liked to be called, took more than $4 million, the Army's entire available resource for 1906, to the devastated city and spent it in relief of human suffering and pain. When challenged by the press, all she replied was, "God will provide." The record reveals he did. In 1912, as William Booth passed into glory, the world stood poised on the brink of war. World War I began in 1914, and by 1917 the United States was part of it. Eva, ever the national commander, won General John J. Pershing's approval and sent young men and women with the troops into the lines, bringing food and care and a touch of home. The Donut Girls of World War I seem elevated in myth, but history proves the reality of their courage. Story after story from every regiment and division, from every branch of service, revealed the compassion and selfless dedication of a different kind of army, a Salvation Army. Buddies, they were called, angels of the battlefield, bringing comfort and peace in the midst of war. The historic and memorable relationship of the Salvation Army with America's fighting men and women has continued through every armed conflict this nation has fought, always going over the top. And what of the Salvation Army today? That same sense of compassion, that same selfless dedication and devotion to people in need are the hallmarks of their creed. The Salvation Army stands for hope, its founder William Booth said. When every other light is extinguished and every other star has gone down, this one beacon shines steadily and clearly from the darkened sky, he said. If I could only get to the Salvation Army, they will do something for me. Throughout the entire world, from the killing fields of Rwanda to the snow-covered villages of genocide-ravaged Bosnia, this Army's mission is summarized in a single word: others. That's their motto, their mission, and their commitment. Wherever human or natural disaster strikes, the Salvation Army still wages war. Its troops still go over the top to the hearts of men and women as they confront despair and disillusionment, as they attack alcoholism and addiction, and wage war against poverty and evil. It's a unique group of people in those uniforms whose good deeds have been prevalent throughout its history.
Rising to his feet, Jesus said, "The Lord has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, to declare freedom for the prisoners, to provide sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." This is a salute to ordinary people. People who go about the tasks of daily life with courage and determination. This is a salute to those whom Christ said we would always have with us, those who are socially or spiritually poor. They are the hungry, the destitute, the lonely, and those who strive toward a deeper relationship with God. The poor help us become more aware of the dimensions of our Christian love. And as we choose to expand it, we find ourselves and each other. Love will not flower in a field of obligation. It will not appear in a demand for duty. It is freely given. In the beauty of the West, God reminds us of the dimensions of his love for us, and we strive to give him men and women to match his mountains and his wonder. As we accept his love, we learn how to share it with others. It rolls forth through the landscape of our world in a never-ending, ever-expanding dynamism. God showers us with beauty that fills us with reverence, and we worship him in our churches, in the restoration of lives, in the development of character, in escape from addictions and immorality, with the reality of hope through his grace. God reveals to us his power. We feel him around us in the rush of our relationship with his world. We sense the measure of his creation, for he is an orderly God. We are his army, and we work to help the powerless find his power. The disordered find his order. The unloved find his love. It is a compassion welling within that craves revelation. In simple ways, a touch or a tear, a meal or a moment, a crutch or a crown. The majesty of God is evident in the magnificence of his handiwork, and yet he is most mindful of mankind. It is with humanity that he struggles to relate. Some reject his love and see only barren vistas without hope. Some see the same view through God's eyes, for he is within them. They find warmth and understanding anywhere in their lives as they relate to him. We worship him with all aspects of our lives. We sing his praises. Provide fanfares to his presence. Study his word. Bow down in prayer. For we are Christianity with our sleeves rolled up. Compassion in action. Living and sharing his love. His love for the common man.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Donnell. Welcome back. Wasn't that a fabulous video? If you've just joined us, we're doing a show on the Salvation Army, and we just showed a tremendous video on the history with Walter Cronkite and then some of the mission of the Salvation Army. And so I'm thrilled to have as my guest again Captain Bob and Captain Jill Steiner from the Santa Fe Mission. Welcome to you.
We're glad to be here, Bill.
Thank you. It's nice.
Well, the video did our job. If you saw the video, you know what they do. Tell us what first comes to mind for you as you see this video. What do folks need to know about the Salvation Army?
Well, I think the video spoke to the fact that the Salvation Army is a worldwide organization. It's working in 108 countries around the world, and basically, you know, the Salvation Army's been around for quite a long time, as you saw in the history, back since 1865 when William and Catherine Booth founded the Salvation Army. And it was interesting to me, Bill, that the Army spread so fast. It started out with William and Catherine, and in a few years came into the States, and within 3 years was across the continent, and really spread that way across the globe. I think we're in every continent except Antarctica right now, doing and following the work that William and Catherine started, which is, I like what that last segment said, Christianity with its sleeve rolled up, and really doing that work, going out into the same mission that William had, as ministering to the poor, the destitute, the needy of the world, and in doing that, bringing also the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is really foremost and first in what we do.
Yeah. What would you like to add to that, Captain Jill?
I was just impressed that our mission is still the same as it was then, that we're still, our main mission is to help the needy and to help those that are poor and hungry, and that's still what we do today, even here in Santa Fe.
I was impressed with the forefront of this, even founded by a man, a former Methodist minister, but his daughters and the women, particularly in World War I, when we had no women in uniform, and you guys, your ancestors, female ancestors particularly, were part of that inspiration, one could say, for eventual military. I know my aunt was a wave in World War II, and God rest her soul, but there was always an equal opportunity, hasn't there been, in helping others?
There has. I hope that was, you know, one of the first for women in the military. Maybe we were significant in initiating that. Also, the early Salvation Army women were very strong in women in ministry, and women have been in ministry since the very beginning, and they really firmly believe that women have a significant part to play in the ministry.
How did God call the two of you?
Well, can
Go
I
ahead,
just
sure.
add one thing to that, Bill? A lot of people might not know this, but when we are ordained, both of us are ordained ministers. It's not just the man who's the minister, it's both the women and the men who are ordained ministers and regarded as equal in that standing. So that's sort of unusual and also.
And before the program, you told me that not unlike the founder, you guys were in another church as well, but you felt the call, the Lord called you in this direction. Tell us about that, either of you.
Well, we were active in another church, and we did feel that the Lord was calling us into a more full-time ministry. And we met the new Salvation Army officers that came into town. We're from Homer, Alaska, and they had just moved there to Homer. And we became very good friends with them through a home Bible study that we did. And we knew God was calling us into some kind of full-time ministry. And when we found out what the Army did and the heart of the Army and the mission of the Army. We just knew that's where God wanted us to plug in, and so we started attending church, and eventually we were called into ministry ourselves.
Right. And it's open to anyone, right? Of any denomination, they're welcome in the Salvation
Yes,
Army.
yes.
Okay. Tell us about your work here in New Mexico.
Well, do you want to start? Yeah.
Well, we do a lot right here in Santa Fe. We are located on 525 West Alameda Street. We have a homeless and needy meal program. We have hot breakfast every morning at 8 and a hot meal every evening at 5 for anyone that wants to come in that needs a hot meal. So we serve 2 meals a day every day, Monday through Friday. We have shower and laundry facilities available to those that need it. We send kids to camp. We have regular church meetings on Sunday morning, and
we have a family service office here that meets a lot of the needs of the community. Boy, we have clothing, some financial assistance, vouchers to our thrift store for clothing, furniture, household items. In fact, we have dealing with the family right now, Bill, that they unfortunately had a tragedy, lost their home, and people are responding, bringing stuff in, but then we're also able to help them restock their supplies in their home. And so we do a lot of things like that. We also do things in conjunction with other groups in the community. You probably heard of the Empty Stocking Fund here in Santa Fe. There's also the Good Neighbor Fund with P&M. And we also do things with other agencies. For instance, St. Elizabeth's shelter here, we have a overflow homeless shelter which is running right now, and we run that through the winter months, the coldest winter month. It opens November 1st and goes to March 31st, and it's open 7 days a week in the evening to have a place for folks who need, the homeless folks, to get out of the cold. And I should say just for men, but homeless men to get out of the cold on the very coldest time of the year. And so we do a lot of stuff in the community. Right.
Well, I know you're a big asset here to the community. How can people get involved and help in your work? I mean, there's a lot of people that have their own lives. They have their successful lives. They have families or their homes, and they may not have time to contribute, or maybe they do, or they can contribute some of their wealth. Tell folks how they can participate as well.
Well, our biggest need, of course, is always donations, and most of our money comes from personal donations, and we really appreciate the folks that give to us financially. That's how we run our programs, and so without that we couldn't survive. We always welcome volunteers to work in our thrift stores or in our offices or help at our meal program. Anything that you can do to come down and volunteer, and that's year-round. Anything you can call and say that you're willing to help us do. It may not sound like we do a lot just by listing our little programs, but I do have some numbers. Like last year alone, we served 95,000 people through our Family Services office. And we made up 1,800 food boxes, which represents about 12,000 meals. We served 36,000 homeless meals last year alone.
That's right, just in Santa Fe.
Just in Santa Fe. And then at Christmas time, we gave away over 5,000 toys, 10,000 articles of clothing to around 1,700 children. And so we do we run large volumes of people through our programs. And we have a core in Albuquerque also that has an adult rehabilitation center for people that are suffering with alcohol and drug problems, and we do referrals to them. I think they have a 40 or 46 bed facility there, and it's a 6-month program. And so I don't think there's a program in existence that the Salvation Army hasn't plugged into, you know, worldwide. So.
And there's a couple of outlets in Albuquerque as well, aren't there? What's the other one?
There's the Albuquerque Citadel, which is the regular core there, and then there's the Albuquerque Temple, which is the Hispanic core in Albuquerque.
Okay.
Bill, I just wanted to make a correction. We said 95,000 people. It's actually 9,500 families. I didn't want to get that. That's a little over-exaggerated.
Well, it's okay. But we want to tell, so watch the credits at the end of this program, and be sure and check the website that's there that you can go, and there's a local and a national. If you just get the national, then follow it to here to the Southwest. What else would you like to say about the Salvation Army? What's it meant to you guys personally to be involved in this kind of work?
Well, it really is a calling, Bill. So It's not just we just didn't wake up one day and say, you know, we want to do a different job. No, but it's really a calling from the Lord. So yeah, it's what we do, but what we're called to do. So it is something special to us, really.
Give us an example of the type of people who can apply to Salvation for help. I mean, who are some of your clients?
We serve a lot of the homeless population in Santa Fe. They sort of live at our facility, and the others would meet the federal standards for low-income families. They'd have to meet those to qualify for the assistance and things that we provide.
And you guys obviously get referrals from other churches and other organizations?
We get referrals from churches, other social service organizations in the community. We sort of really network together with other agencies, and we do referrals back and forth, because there's not everything we do here. If we can't supply something, we try to hook folks up with some other agency in town that they can get help with.
Right. Just in the minute or two we have left, what advice would you have for those folks? I mean, you've obviously seen and heard, I mean, probably the most tragic of stories. What advice would you have for people out there who are struggling at home, or not having a home, or on the brink of going to be destitute? What advice could you have for them to encourage them, or what resources can they go to?
Well, I just have to say that there's a lot of places here in Santa Fe that we can supply help to you. And please come down and see us, call us up. There's a lot of help that's happening right now at this time through the Salvation Army, but through a lot of different agencies. So if we're not able to help you, we'll try to hook you up with somebody who can. So yeah, tough times are tough times, and it is hard to keep from being depressed. But I just want folks to know there is help here in Santa Fe, and there's a lot of people, a lot of agencies who are here to help you get by and get through your emergency and through your disaster, or through the crisis situations they might be having. So please call us, please come down and see us. That's what we're here for. That's what we've been called by God to do, and we want to help you.
All right, that's great. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but that was an action-packed week. Thank you for coming in. I hope that something that that Captain Bob and Captain Jill have said with you, or the video, have given you some thoughts that you would like to help them. And if you're looking for something to give a charitable donation that you can write off on your taxes, or personally get involved physically, if you don't have extra money to spare, come down and see if you can give them a hand with their work. And it goes around 12 months a year, 24 hours a day, so there's a real opportunity here. So please watch the credits, please give them a call, check their website, and get involved and help out where you can. So on behalf of the Steiners and everybody here at Spirituality TV, we want to thank you for viewing, and stay tuned next week at this time for another program on spirituality.